Folks, welcome to Game Beyond the Game presents Talk That Talk, inspiring conversations with professional athletes where we inspire our audience as we explore finding vision and purpose in life and discuss tools to overcome life's transitions. I'm Sam Pearson II, your MC, and we are joined with founder Prince Daniels Jr. How are you doing, Prince? How's life?
Oh, man, it's beautiful. Life is great. I'm blessed. As I always say, I get another opportunity to interview an incredible athlete, an incredible human being, father, husband, and it's an amazing person. So it's another great opportunity. Looking forward to talking to the man, Lance Moore, and allow him to share his story, man, and just be incredible and using his voice.
Cool. So without further ado, I told him in the green room that I was going to introduce him like the rock star he is. So here we go. From undrafted free agent into the NFL to Super Bowl champion and New Orleans Saints Hall of Famer, Lance Moore has worked for everything in his life. He has transitioned from the gridiron of football into the world of marriage, fatherhood, and being an entrepreneur, skill coach, and speaker beautifully. He truly believes that his successes on the gridiron are just the tip of the iceberg and works every single day to be the best possible version of himself. Please welcome wherever you are. Clap your hands, stomp your feet for Mr. Lance Moore.
Who that?
And the crowd goes wild wherever they are. I know they are. Man, how are you doing this afternoon, Lance?
I'm doing well, man. Just, obviously in this quarantine, very used to, I guess, this new normal, and looking forward to the conversation with you guys, and hopefully we can have some fun and share some good stories, some bad stories, and some real stories, because I think that's what it's all about.
For sure. Really quick, I was going to feel sorry for the quarantine, and then I remembered you said you live in San Diego, so I feel no pain for you, my friend. Even though, no, I'm just kidding. No, great to have you. Thanks for being here with us both. So, let's jump right into this. So, from what it appears, you've experienced some adversity, and as we go back to again college, the undrafted piece, can we start right there? What did that feel like? Let's say to go undrafted, where maybe you felt like there was more for you. You deserved more, or did you think you deserved more? What was that feeling?
Well, I think that it even happened before, being an undrafted free agent. I was an all-state football player in Ohio. I was, breaking a bunch of state records, and I didn't have any scholarship offers. It took me until 2 weeks before, like, my high school graduation that a couple of teams, Akron, Eastern Michigan, and Toledo, called me and offered me scholarships. So going into school, I already had a chip on my shoulder, and I already knew if I was going to make it to the NFL, I was going to end up making it the hard way, which was okay with me because that's how I got to college, and that's how I got to earn a scholarship was basically waiting, playing the waiting game. And once I got the opportunity to go to Toledo, I knew that I had to make the most of that opportunity if, the NFL was in the cards for me. I didn't go to college saying I want to go to the NFL. I went to the college saying I'm appreciative and thankful for the opportunity to get my education for free. And then we'll see what happens on the football field. I thought that I could be successful, but I didn't know going into college when I was 18 years old that I was going to play over a decade in the NFL. I didn't know that I was going to be a Super Bowl champion. I didn't know that I would end up in the Saints Hall of Fame, but I knew that if I got an opportunity that I was going to make the most of it, and I was going to show them that not only I belonged, but I was going to stand out, and I was going to be one of the better players, if not the best player on the field each and every time out. And I think like sure. If I was a big time recruit coming out of high school, I don't know that my career trajectory goes the way that it goes. I don't know that I accomplished all the things that I accomplished. And I always tell guys, even when you're in the NFL, you're in the NFL for this time right now. They're always trying to replace you. So don't think just because you're here that you're going to stay here. And that was my mentality early on in college. I was like, I'm a lower level scholarship guy, but I'm going to do everything I can to replace that guy that's in front of me and the guy that's in front of him and then the starter. And I know that they're going to keep trying to do that every single year because they're going to bring in a new class every single year. So I kind of learned that lesson early on, that just because you're there doesn't mean you're going to stay there. And just because you've had prior success doesn't lead to future success. It's the work that you put in that's going to allow you to get those opportunities, and then you're going to be, potentially be successful with the work that you put in. So,
what gave you that mindset?
I'm ready to play ball right now.
Yeah.
Like so I grew up in the dojo. My dad is a 10th degree black belt. He's owned a dojo for over 40 years. For those who aren't familiar, it's a karate school. It's a karate studio. He still teaches classes now. They got the masks on and everything because of COVID. But that's where I learned work ethic. That's where I learned discipline. That's when I learned slightly kind of controlling what you can control and not so much worrying about what everybody else is doing. So I kind of grew up in a very competitive, very focused, and very work-oriented household. So that, like, for me, it was always about work, not necessarily about the other things. And I knew as I got older, that having the success on the field, I knew that I was good enough if I were to get the opportunity. So, it was just a matter of kind of the cards falling in my favor on the scholarship thing. And then, thankfully getting an opportunity in the NFL. I was a guy that already had a chip on my shoulder. So being undrafted just added more to that chip, because going to college, it's like, well, not only am I going to be kind of angry or mad at the schools that didn't offer me, but I'm mad at Toledo because they didn't offer me soon enough, right? Like that was a part of my edge. I'm not going to try to compare myself to Michael Jordan in any way, but I'm sure everybody watched The Last Dance, over this break and just saw all the things that he did or said or even made up to create an edge for himself. So, that's like, something that I was doing. Sure, I'm happy to be here. I'm thankful that you guys gave me a scholarship, but I should have been the number one receiver on your board. I should have been offered a year ago, right? Like, so there was no time in my career that I ever was satisfied. And I think that's a part of human nature, right? You have some level of success and you become satisfied and you're happy. And then that satisfaction leads to complacency. And the complacency leads to you not doing the work that you used to do or the work that got you to where you are. Well, yeah, you got there, but what are you going to do when you get there, right? It's easier to get there. It's harder to stay there or exceed where you're at. And that was like, I learned that early in the NFL, boy. Like, you can't just be happy to be in the NFL. Like, you got to keep working. It doesn't matter. Like, even when I signed the biggest deal of my career, millions of dollars, I wasn't of the mentality that I made it. It felt good for a couple of minutes, but after that, it was like, let's get back to the lab. Like, I got to work. I got to make sure that I don't make them look like fools for giving me this money, right? Like, I want to show that they should have given me twice as much, right? I want to make sure that at some point in this deal, people say, you know what? The Saints got a steal on this guy. He's worth a lot more money than that. And I feel like I did the work that was necessary for that to happen.
And absolutely. I'm going to throw it to Prince in a moment. But I certainly want to say thank you you mentioned The Last Dance. And I think sometimes when folks don't understand, let's say, what it takes to truly excel or be at the high, I mean, you're part of the 1%. You're part of that brotherhood or that familyhood of athletes who make it to the pinnacle, the very, very top. And a lot of folks don't understand what it takes to do that. So when people see, I'm like, well, just only somebody like George, it's like, no. Anyone that wants to succeed at the highest level and push themselves, they create the edge, even when there seems like there is no edge, to meet a new version of themselves. And that speaks to the mindset that you've had all along and continue to carry, through this transition in your game beyond the game. So thank you for pointing that piece out. I think that's important for elite folks to hear, that it makes sense. They're not crazy. They're actually on the right track if they're creating an edge for themselves.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's the NFL is an all-star league, right? There is no other league that's above the NFL. So once you get there, everybody is good. So you've got to find a way, and it's not necessarily a motivational piece, but you've got to find a way. How am I going to operate once I get here? What am I going to do that's going to give me that edge? And I always was trying to find ways to create some sort of an edge for myself. And like I said, for me, it was just reminding myself, okay, you haven't made it. You haven't made it. You haven't made it. You haven't made it. That worked out well for me.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Awesome. Prince, man, I feel like I got someone in your mind, man. What do you have?
Um, I would like to ask you, Lance, what was it that when you knew, like, man, I'm here and I'm here to stay? Was it like you scoring your first touchdown, you like running past somebody, you catching a one-hand catch and scoring a touchdown? What was it that made you feel like, man, I am here to stay and no one's going to take my place?
Yeah, I think it was probably my third year, because my first year in '05, I bounced up and down from the practice squad, didn't play in any regular season games. They sent me to NFL Europe before my second year. So my second year, I make the team, playing 4 games, get cut, put back on the practice squad. And I wouldn't say there was a lot of uncertainty on my end, whether I felt like I was good enough, but there was uncertainty as far as, am I going to really ever get this true opportunity to show them? And I really didn't know. But I would say that my third year, 2007, we started out horrible. We were 0-4. We were playing at Seattle on a Sunday night. It was Sunday night football. And I think Coach Payton came over to myself and Devery Henderson, and he said, look, we're going to make some changes. Lance, you're going to start. Devery, you're going to back him up. I think in that moment, it was like, okay, they finally are giving me my opportunity. Now it's like really showtime. Like that was the time for me where I was like, okay, now I really got to go. And I ended up scoring a touchdown on a reverse in that game. And that was when I really became a regular. I had played in the first 4 games, but that was the moment that I think a switch went off. Like, okay, now it's for real. And now I'm gonna put my foot on the gas even more so they can't ever, try to get me out of this spot. So yeah, that was definitely an important moment in my career. And personally, I mean, I had just lost my grandfather shortly before that. So it was a pretty cool way how it ended up happening. And shoot, man, I am happy that I got that opportunity, because obviously, if I don't know what happens in my career.
Right. So you mentioned that you lost your grandfather. How were you able to cope with that and transfer that energy of grievance and hurt into the game? Did you dedicate it to him, or was it like, this is a part of life? Everyone has their phase where they're living and then they pass.
Right.
What was it that allowed you to put it behind and focus on your game?
Well, yeah, I mean, I felt like I wanted to honor him every time I went on the field. My grandparents really, my mom's parents were like the ultimate supporters in everything that we did, and it wasn't a game for me unless they were there. Like it's crazy. They would drive from Columbus, Ohio to wherever we were playing, and whatever sport it was. Like my brother and I weren't huge track guys, but you know what? Every single track meet, they were there. Like, and that was, to me, that was important, because my mom obviously went to all of them. My dad was in and out of events, but my grandparents were always there, and I always wanted to make them proud. It was a big deal. So once he passed, it was like, man, he's not gonna get to see me play in the NFL. So I'm gonna honor him every single time I'm out on the field. And kind of to take it full circle, when my grandmother passed a few years later, I started doing the one eye black. And I did that for the rest of my career. And that was kind of like my way to honor her memory on the field. And yeah, I mean, it's life, right? Nobody lives forever. And you can honor them and remember them in your own unique way. But that was my way to do it for them.
That's awesome.
Oh, man, thanks for sharing that. I always wondered about the eye black piece, but I'd never found it.
Yeah.
Even watching him play back then, didn't know what that was. So thank you for sharing that piece. And obviously, loss is something, that people go through and it's difficult. Are there other difficult moments that you like think back to and like, whew, I made it through that piece, or whether it was high school, college, your adult, professional life? Was there a moment where you're like, I made it, whew, and you look back in those moments?
Yeah, I'm not sure there's a bunch of those kind of smaller moments, but like the moment for me was the Hurricane Katrina season. We're in San Antonio, and we were terrible. the Saints. We were 3-13. I was up and down from the practice squad. We had a lot of stuff going on around us that really wasn't football related that affected us on the field. So Haslett gets fired. Peyton comes in, and usually when new coaches come in, they kind of get rid of a lot of guys, especially a lot of the bottom tier guys. Like, well, this practice squad guy is not my guy. Let me kind of get this guy out of there. And I didn't want to go to NFL Europe when they first told my agent that they wanted me to go. Like, I was like, no, man, like new staff, new coaches. Like, I want to be around. I want to learn the offense. I want to get to know my new teammates. We had just signed Drew Brees. Like, I want to be in the mix. And I go to NFL Europe anyway, because I was like, I'm a practice squad guy. I don't want to piss them off before I even meet them. So go to Europe, end up getting hurt in Europe after like 3 or 4 weeks, get sent back to the States. I'm in Birmingham, Alabama with a cast on my wrist, and I'm showing up to rehab. They sent the injured Europe guys back to Alabama before you could get back to your prospective teams. And I would go to rehab. They'd say, warm up on the treadmill. So I warm up on the treadmill. Right. Now, mind you, I had a thumb injury, so I warm up on the treadmill. Then they bring me over to the table and they say, we're going to do, 5 sets of 12 shoulder raises, like front raises and side raises. Yeah. And then they'd be like, all right, sit down. And I'd sit down and they put a bag of ice on top of my cast. And so I'm like, what am I doing? Like, what is this? So I call the Saints trainer. I'm like, Scotty, they're putting ice on my cast, man. Like, you don't need to know anything else about what's going on here other than they're putting a bag of ice on top of my cast. Please get me out of here. So Scotty calls. They get me out of there a couple days later. I get to rejoin the team. I finish OTAs. I do the team mini camp. They built me like this little custom splint for my thumb so I could catch the ball. My thumb wouldn't dislocate. Like, I feel like that was like where I was like, whoo, like I survived a coach being fired, and I survived an injury in NFL Europe, because back then the rehab place in Birmingham, they got paid per player per day. So they wouldn't have let me go back to New Orleans. Like, I would have just been in Birmingham the whole offseason had I not made that call to our trainer and said, look, man, please get me out of here. Like, I wasn't one of the guys that was happy to just be an NFL Europe player. I felt like I was an NFL player, and I needed to get back with my team so I could first meet most of the guys, but meet the coaches and be around and learn the offense. And that, I feel like that was probably one of those, like, thank you. Thank you for sticking around when Haslett was fired. Thank you for going to NFL Europe, because I at least showed them that I was going to do what they wanted. And thank you for them getting me out of Birmingham, because that gave me an opportunity to learn and be around the guys before we went to training camp in 2006, which was, I always say it was hell on earth. Like, it was brutal. But if all those other things don't happen, then that I'm not at that training camp. So
and your ability,
definitely important.
And your ability through those difficult times to still find a way to be proactive, right? Because it's also about making a different choice. You mentioned, all right, I don't want to upset these guys. I'm going to go here. Boom. I'm just going to I'm going to act. And then when all that stuff isn't working or I've been moved, let me call my trainer and be like, hey. So it'll always go in that extra mile. Like, sometimes people wonder why some folks are, let's say, lucky, using that particular word, but other folks will say, the harder you work, the luckier you'll get. And so as you talk about those pieces being put together, you are an integral part of all those pieces falling into the right place and then one domino hitting the next. So really appreciation in that.
I can't take all the credit for it, because I have had great people around me that have helped me make some decisions. I'd be foolish to say, well, I did it all and I did it all by myself. Like that, right. That's not accurate, but I did have the wherewithal to bounce ideas off of people and help, have them help me make the best decisions possible. I don't make the decision who makes the roster, at the end of training camp, but I do make the decision on whether I'm gonna go get this extra run in, or whether I'm gonna catch some extra balls, or whether I'm gonna do what they tell me to do. That goes back to the controlling what you can control thing, which I think is something that's important throughout life, not just in athletics, not just in football, but people will drive themselves crazy worrying about things that they have zero control over, and that to me doesn't make a whole lot of sense, right? You change or do what you can do to get the best results at what you're trying to do. But if you spend any amount of time worrying about what other people should be doing, that's less amount of time that you can spend on yourself. So I choose to live my life that way.
Lance, did you have a mentor when you were in the league? Someone that you can go to, like that dedicated person, or did you have multiple mentors?
I would say I had multiple mentors. I as far as like football goes, I always looked up to my high school head coach. He wasn't a pro player, he played Division III college football, but he kind of took me under his wing and was more of like more than just a football coach, more of like a life coach, father figure, and really helped kind of mold me into the man that I am. And I always kind of, I cared about what he thought, so I would lean on him when I needed. My longtime receiver coach in New Orleans, Curtis Johnson, been all over the place, coached at University of Miami. He was, the Andre Johnson, Santana Moss, all those guys. He was the receiver coach then and left from Miami to come to New Orleans. When it comes to receiver play and football specifically, he was always my guy. Even when he left and went to become the head coach at Tulane. I mean, I'm getting ready to get cut by the Saints again for the third time, and after the 13th season, I'm talking to him like, man, where should I go? Like what team best fits me? Just as far as like a football mentor. I've had a couple business mentors, like my financial advisor, Jason Carlin, is awesome as far as the business sense and understanding money and understanding how my money is working for me and the do's and don'ts of life after football. I mean, I think the list kind of goes on, but I feel like it's important. It's okay to not know everything, right? Like I'm in the process of I know you wrote a book. I'm in the process of starting the outline for my book. And that's one of the biggest, most important messages I think that I can give to people is it's okay to not know everything, but when you don't know something, who are you going to get that information? Are you even seeking the information, right? Because even the most famous, rich, successful people in the world, I guarantee you they're learning every single day. Because you have to. You've got to continually evolve. You've got to continually improve yourself. I always say you're either getting better or you're getting worse. You can't you don't stay the same. It's impossible, right? Because everybody else around you is doing one or the other. So you can't stay the same. If you are staying right here, the people that are working are doing this, and the people that aren't are doing this. Right. You might think you're the same, but people keep passing you, and I've never wanted that to happen. So I'm always trying to do what I can to further improve myself, whether that's physically, mentally, spiritually, educationally. I mean, I think that it's just as important as anything else that you can do is making sure that you continue to seek information, try to find those answers. And nobody has to be an expert in everything, right? I mean, everybody kind of has their own path, and some people are experts in their craft, but that doesn't mean that they can't continue to learn. They don't know everything. I mean, I think that's kind of foolish if somebody has that kind of mindset.
Right. Sure. Right.
Now, briefly, if you don't mind, you mentioned kind of the do's and don'ts, post football and transition for professional athletes out there who are preparing for their transition, or those who say, I want to get ahead of the game. What are some do's? If you want to throw some don'ts in there, but certainly, what are some do's? As folks, decide to transition away from their professional sport.
Yeah, man. I was a little bit the casualty of my own kind of ending. I wasn't prepared to retire. I was going into my 12th year, and the idea that I had was like, I'm going to play 15 years. Like 15 years was my mark. I want to get to 15. I'm going into my 12th year. I had just finished my the 15th season with the Lions, and I was a free agent again. So I was going to be in 16 on my fourth team in 4 years, which for a guy that's getting a little bit older, like starting over again wasn't like necessarily exciting to me, but it was like, okay, it's a part of the process. Hopefully I land somewhere, play well enough that they give me an extension. I can finish my 15 and walk on, out to the sunset. So I had a few things working for me outside of football, but I like I said, I wasn't prepared as far as like, I didn't know I was going to retire when I retired. I worked out for the Chargers in the offseason or beginning of training camp in 2016, didn't get signed. A couple of days later, I worked out for the Falcons, got signed, and, I don't know if you guys know, but it planned for New Orleans for 9 years, going from there and playing for the Falcons. It is like, it's just like you don't do it, like it's like it's forbidden. It's awkward, right? Somebody that had played against and whooped up on them for so long to now be wearing their uniform and wearing their helmet and being in their facility and around their coaching staff. Like it was tough for me mentally.
Like there's a spy in our midst.
It was tougher for me in awkwardness than it was football wise.
Right.
Like it was just from the moment I flew to Atlanta, because my agent told me, I said, I don't want to go. I don't want to go to a workout. I don't want to work out for the Falcons. He's like, look, man, if they're going to pay you to play and you want to keep playing, and the Saints aren't calling me because I tried. I talked to the general manager with the Saints and a couple of scouts like, look, man, I'd love to come back. Like, I'm not asking for a lot of money. And they're like, well, just not right now. And I'm like, all right, well, I don't have time to wait on your time. So right. I'm going to go do this workout. I'm going to kill this workout. We'll see if I get signed. But something in the back of my mind on that flight was like, I hope they don't sign me. Just because I knew how many people I would upset. I knew how awkward it would feel for me personally. And it was weird, man. I knew several players on the team. I knew some of the coaches on the coaching staff. So it wasn't one of those orientations where you go in and you don't know anybody. Like I already was familiar with several people in the organization. So do the workout. They shut my workout down because they're like, you're good. Like we saw all we needed to see. And that offseason was a weird one for me because I'm living up in Northern California with my in-laws, no quarterback, nobody throw the ball to me. I'm training at a high school field by myself. So I'm running routes on air. I hadn't caught a football in I don't know how long. I was just like, hopefully, my skill will kick back in the moment the ball's in the air. So, I couldn't tell you how long it was. I don't know that it was exactly like the last game in Detroit until that workout, but it was close. Like I didn't have anybody. There was no quarterbacks up there that I felt comfortable enough that would help me. Went there, killed the workout, ended up getting signed, and just getting back in the playbook and thinking about all the things that weren't football. Moving my family to Atlanta from California, just having to be like remembered as the great Saint that played a little bit in Atlanta, like all these things. My oldest daughter was getting ready to have her first birthday party a week after I got to Atlanta. So all these things are piling up. Yeah. And I got home after the first practice that I practiced with the team. And I didn't feel quite like myself now. Like I had been out of football the whole off season. I missed the first 10 days or so of training camp. And so I started thinking, man, do I really want to do this? And I had some serious conversations. First, I called my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, and I said, I don't know if I want to be here. I just don't know if I want to keep playing because I'm feeling this way. And so then I called my agent and I said, look, man, I don't think I'm going to stay. I think that I'm at the point where the reason I would be staying is to collect the check. Like that was the only motivation for me at that point. Wow. And it being the Falcons had a lot to do with it. And that's nothing against the Falcons. I think they have a great head coach. Dan Quinn is awesome as far as how he communicates, how he coaches the guys, how he gets the most out of them, how competition is big. Like you could tell the vibe there is really, really good. They've obviously had some injury issues and they've had to deal with the Saints and the Panthers being good recently. So it's tough. It's tough on him that he hasn't had the amount of success. But, some of the guys there, I mean, obviously Julio Jones is one of the greatest we've ever seen. And to see him work in person, I played against him for a long time in New Orleans, but to see how he worked in practice, I was like, okay, yeah, I get it. It's more than just physical ability, right? It's his mentality. It's how he works. It's how he operates. It's how there's no stone left unturned. If there's something that's messed up in practice, he's gonna get that rep at some point, whether it's a break in practice or after practice. You know, like there's a reason why the guys that are greats are great. I mean, Calvin was the same way. Calvin Johnson was the same way in Detroit. Like you could tell by watching guys on tape that they're really, really good or they're great players. But when you get up close and personal and you work with them and you see how they work, then it's like, okay, yeah, there's no surprise. I've never been on the team. I've never been on a team with Larry Fitzgerald, but I guarantee you he's the same way. Like the guys that have that level of success, it's more than just physical tools. It's how they operate. It's how they handle their work off the field. It's how they take care of their bodies. And like, those guys are fanatical about it. So I definitely learned something in each place. But to get back to that, like I text Coach Quinn and I said, hey, can I come see you early tomorrow morning before stuff gets started? I want to talk to you about something. He's like, yeah, show up at 5:30 or something. It was something way early, but I didn't care at that point. I was already bags packed. You know what I mean? Like I was already kind of
I was about to break up already.
The first thing I said was, I appreciate you. For giving me the opportunity for basically allowing me to figure it out for myself, as opposed to me not ever getting signed again, and that became my retirement. Like he gave me the opportunity to try again and to really see if I wanted to continue my career. And I said I prided myself in being a guy who played the game for the right reasons. And I honestly think that if I stayed here, not only would I not be playing for the right reasons, but I'd be potentially robbing a young player of an opportunity that he might not ever get. And I used to be that young player. Like that was me. So I don't want to be that guy. And he said, you know what, I respect the hell out of you. I respected you when we played against you, but I respect you even more for coming in and having that type of perspective. You know, and he's kind of like, I wish you the best of luck. And so for me, it was like, okay, you know, like I feel like I did the right thing. And I, at that point, was just kind of physically and mentally exhausted and wanted to give myself some time. And I didn't have anything that I could go to right away. And that kind of impacted me physically, mentally, emotionally. I would tell guys, I mean, to answer the question directly, have a plan, man, and put things in place while you're still playing. Like, early in your career, because I look back, there was so many opportunities that I had to be doing things that I was just kind of like, nah, I'm good. You know, like I'm kind of a little bit into real estate now, and I've owned some homes in different places. And I look back now and I'm like, man, I should have done this with that home, or I should have turned it into a rental property, or I should have flipped these couple of places. Like, my situation would have been a lot better. Not that when I retired, that I needed the money right then, but I needed something else after football to kind of help get me going every day. And it was tough. Like the first month or so, it was still the preseason. I was in a great place. Like I was like, no football. Like I was like, this is awesome. I would watch preseason games and watch guys get tackled and be like, ooh, better them than me. And that was really how I felt. And it was just the first time in my life I didn't have anything to do. I'm like, this is amazing. Like after about a month and those regular season games kicked off and I wasn't getting any checks and I wasn't traveling with the team and getting free meals and free hotel stays, then I started to feel a little bit uneasy. Like I'd watch games and I'd kind of be shaken because my anxiety was up.
Right.
My wife, she's like, "What's wrong with you?" And I'm like, "I don't know. Like I've never felt like this before." But I didn't have that. Like I always say, football was my longest relationship.
Right.
Football was my longest relationship.
Yeah.
And once we broke up, there's no getting back together. Like we're through.
Yeah.
So I didn't deal with like a grieving process. I didn't deal with making sure I had something else on the side so that when I'm done, that could just slide on in and become my new girlfriend. You know, like it was tough. And I was very edgy and my anxiety was high. And I just, and thank goodness the gym that I was working out at one of the little guys that played on the little basketball court asked me to come play on his rec basketball team one time. And I realized in having something that meant something to me again, basically like saved me. Like it got me back going. It got me motivated again. It gave me some drive because I was like, dang, like I lost competition. I had never, ever in my life been without competition. So I got the competition back. I got something where there was referees coming and blowing whistles. So it was like, I have a team. Like it means something. So I needed to get that back. And I really, I never thought rec basketball would be the thing that would, kind of reignite my flame, but it definitely was. And it got me going in a direction where I was like, okay, now I'm back. Now what do I need to be doing? Like I wish that I would have been doing it before, but I'm glad that is what happened that got me going in the right direction for sure.
Wow. Man, that was so awesome, man. You had so many things. I have so many questions in my head, but I think one, if you can tell our audience and our viewers real quick. And also, I want to give a shout out to Anthony Mitchell Jr. He said, good conversation. Jack Levine, great show. Lance, still remember that 2-point conversion from the Super Bowl win. They showing you love, man. Shout outs to them. But one I wanted to say, if you were to talk to the athlete, how would you tell them to know how to use their agent? Because a lot of guys, I know for me, man, I struggle. I was the person, I didn't really call my agent and rely on him. I was just like, I got to do everything myself. And I feel that a lot of athletes have that mentality. So what would be some suggestions that you would give them?
Yeah, I mean, I was the same way, right? I didn't, as long as I was on a team, I wasn't having too many conversations with my agent. Early on in my career, he was calling to check up on me, right, to make sure that I was okay. But I think you have to understand that these people are here to help you, whether it's your agent or your financial advisor or your business manager or whoever, all these different people, and especially now, like your therapist, because we know how important mental health is. You can't get through all of the struggles that you're going to go through in football by yourself. You just can't. You're going to need to use people that are there to help you. Use them. I mean, that's definitely one of the most important things. Is they're there for a reason. Yeah, sure, you might be paying your agent. We'll make him earn his money, right? Like once you sign your contract, he's guaranteed to get X amount of dollars. So you might as well do everything. You might as well help him or have him do things for you that are going to help you, right? Ask him questions about deals outside of football. Ask him questions about, this roster on this team if you're a free agent. I mean, you can't expect people to go out of their way to help maximize your potential if you're not going to do it, right? Like you've got to. I always say a closed mouth doesn't get fed. Right. So if you're going to just sit there and operate and think everything is going to happen in your favor, then you're foolish. You've got to be proactive in making sure that all of the things that you aspire to be and aspire to achieve can happen, and don't allow your lack of effort or lack of sense of urgency on these things that could potentially send your career one way or the other.
Wow. That's beautiful. Well said. So my next question. So how is it that you maintain a successful marriage, being in the NFL and then getting out of the NFL? Because one, I wanted to know if you can talk to the audience as well. Like whenever you said you had to move your family from California back to Atlanta, what type of stress and struggle does that put on the family? How are you able to cope with that? I know you're going to probably mention that you got to have a strong partner. And Cassie, she does a really good job. So explain more.
Yeah. I mean, thankfully I retired before I had to move them to Atlanta. So we didn't
okay.
We didn't have the trip. But yeah, I mean, I think it's communication is always king. Right. And I've kind of struggled with that in my adult life in relationships. I'm a very, kind of internal person with emotions and feelings. And she's been great about helping me kind of tap into those, and sometimes it's like pulling teeth. But I understand that as long as we're on the same page, and even when we're not, if we can get on the same page by having that dialogue, then I think that's the most important. And for an athlete that is transitioning from whatever sport they're in into retirement and or whatever their next endeavor is, I think it's having somebody that understands that there's going to be some highs and lows, and some that are different than you've ever experienced, because you're experiencing something you've never experienced before, right? I played football my entire life pretty much, and then all of a sudden I was without football, and so there might be a time when I'm down and in the dumps and nobody knows why, and maybe I don't even know why, but having somebody that understands, like, okay, he's going through a little bit of a rough patch here, like let's help him to find himself and help him if we can to get out of that place and into a more peaceful and successful place.
Nice.
And I mean, I think it's taking initiative yourself and accountability. I've been seeing a therapist for years now, because you feel like as a man you can handle everything. And like I said, like I've always internalized. And you can only do that for so long before something severe happens. And I never was interested in allowing it to get to that, right? So I see a therapist and I talk about things I've never talked about with anybody else. And I've always thought, like, well, I just don't really have feelings, not that I wasn't allowed or I didn't grow up in a place where feelings were okay. I just didn't have that type of mentality. I was about work and do what I got to do to be successful. And, I'm the older brother, so I'm going to, handle my business.
Right.
But I think as you,
emotions.
I think as you get older, you kind of realize it's okay, right? It's okay to be sad. It's okay to cry, and it's okay to have these emotions, even if they aren't the tough, the rah rah rah, and the excitement. It's okay to have these sad moments, and do deep dives into yourself to try to figure them out. I think I always say, like, we balance each other out so well, because I'm not very emotional. She's very emotional. So like when we come, we have these arguments or discussions. We come and we find a middle ground. It's healthy for both of us. You don't really want to be. If you don't have to be, you don't want to be either of those extremes.
Right. So, man, that's so beautiful, man. So, so you have 4 children. You have 3 girls, correct? 3 children. Okay, excuse me.
2 girls and a boy.
2 girls and a boy, man. So did the girls soften you up and allow you to become more communicative, communicate more, and let them know, like, be strong, have a work ethic, and be incredible. Learn how to be yourself. Did that help soften you up to be able to speak more? And then also, in this world with everything that's going on, how do you teach them about hard work and to stay disciplined when everybody seems like they are feeling entitled to certain things in life?
Yeah, I mean, I think the girl thing was humbling in the beginning. I always thought, tough football player. I'm only going to have boys. They're all going to play football. Like that was just, that was what I wanted. That was the kind of the dream. I'm going to have 2 or 3 boys. They're all going to play ball, and I'm going to be the coach and all that. But I couldn't imagine my life now without my girls. And I would say they've along with Casey, they've taught me what true love is. Right, like you grow up and you love your family because you're around them, and you love them. But until you become a parent, I really don't feel like you understand fully what true love is.
Correct.
And that is what they've done for me. And as a father of girls, I think education is important. Making sure that I'm doing everything that I can so that they are aware enough and intelligent enough to be able to make decisions when they're out on their own. And I think the work ethic is something that will be talked about, but it'll be more learned by watching me and watching their mother, because we are tireless in the things that we do and trying to improve and trying to better the lives for our family and those that we love and care about. I I'm proud to be a girl dad, and I'm nervous at the same time because it is scary, man. Like it's a whole different world than when we grew up. The access to information and other things that they have, the access that others have to them is scary. And you can't protect them at all times. Like I can't be with them 24/7. So I'm going to try my best to equip them. My wife and I are going to try our best to equip them with the tools necessary for them to be able to go out and make the decisions that will best benefit them and keep them safe. And I think that, that won't ever change.
Right. Oh, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. So my last question, man, how are you and your wife doing right now? Because everyone sees the Moore family and they're like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. How are you guys doing right now, man?
We're good. Obviously this time is anything but normal.
Right.
We actually just started a business together recently. We redid our family YouTube page, so we've been pretty busy with that.
Nice.
She is like the hardest working girl without like an actual job that I've ever met. Like she's with a specific job, I should say. Like she's an influencer on social media. She runs this YouTube page. We're doing this business together. She does before COVID. She does themed birthday parties and celebrations. She does charcuterie boards. Like it's just
you got a real one. That's what you said.
For real.
You got a real one.
She's a tycoon, baby.
She is. Like she hustles and she handles her business, and I think that's important because our daughters are going to see like she's always busy, but she's doing it. Like that. That is for me. I don't want them. Just lost my headphone. I don't want them to look back in 10, 15, 20 years and say like our dad played football and that's the end of discussion, right? Like I want there to be more to the story. And I always tell people like winning a Super Bowl is cool.
Yeah. Being
in the Saints Hall of Fame is cool. Playing in the NFL for over a decade is cool, but I don't want that to be the end of it. I want there to be more. Yeah, I want there to be more to the story. And I really believe that, we're on our way and I mean, we're good. We're good. We stay busy. We make sure we dedicate time to ourselves, even if it's just at night after we have all three of the kids down. We get in the room and we just kind of hang out and like we have our little snacks in bed and the shows that we watch and we have our conversations about what's going on all around us.
Right.
But definitely, I'm learning as I go. Right. Like we're all learning. You should be.
Right.
Because there is no relationship that's perfect, and there is no relationship I think that can thrive without having communication. So I'm a work in progress, and she reminds me. But look, man, it's a wonderful thing, and it's fun for sure.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. That's beautiful. All right, one I want to say, man, thank you for being a poster child for Game Beyond the Game, man. That's awesome, man. I really do appreciate that, and man, we love what you do. Thank you for your time and just being here and just sharing this wisdom with everybody in the world and everybody that's watching this, because we're looking to educate more players. And teach them about the transition of life, because we all go through transitions and we all have to have some tool to help us be able to equip in this uncharted territory, especially now with everything that's going on. So just about being mindful of the things that we need to do for our basic survival. And so I just want to share that with you, man, and just say another thing. Who that?
Yeah, it's who that all day, baby. And I'm like, just to finish from my perspective, just remember we're all retired at some point, right? So just remember you're only going to be a football player for so long, or basketball, or whatever sport it is that you play. So have something lined up before you're ready to be done. And if you don't, then have something that you're passionate about, that you can get into, that because it'll go a long way as far as your mental health goes once you retire.
Right. Stan, you want to take it away?
Man, absolutely amazing. Thank you so very much, And I did one brief question, Lance, if you don't mind me asking. Again, you shared so many jewels, and there was once upon a time a younger Lance Moore, right? Probably somewhere around junior high. But what one piece of advice would you give the young version of you?
Ooh. Oh man, one piece of advice. I think that I was, especially when I was younger, I was a big worrier. I worried. I worried about this. I worried about that. And as I got older, I developed control what you can control. But definitely, I would tell myself, don't worry so much about the things that you don't control. You just handle your business, and somebody will take notice. And that mentality should allow you to be successful in life, as long as you're taking care of your business, for sure. I think that's important.
Nice.
Thank you so very much. Prince, any final thoughts, man?
Yeah. So Lance, I have a question for you. I always ask everyone this, and their reaction is totally different. But if you have 48 to 72 hours to live, what would you tell your family? What would you tell your wife? What would you tell your kids? You sit them down and like, hey, look, this is what I want you guys to know.
Oh, yeah. That's a pretty deep question, but I would want them. Obviously, I want them to know that I love them, more than anything in the world. And even though I'm not physically going to be around, I'll always be with them, and I'll always be cheering them on. And I would want them to do, try to do whatever it is in their heart that they want to do. Right? Don't allow anybody to tell you what you should be doing or where you should be going. Do the things that make your heart beat, and do the things that excites you. And you'll make myself and Casey proud.
Man, shout out to your wife too. And so the reason why I asked that question is because one of our icons, Kobe Bryant, passed away. And that's the reason why I asked that question, because I want everybody to be able to think in those terms of like, okay, I need to make sure that I'm doing everything to prepare the next generation to succeed. And that's the reason why I go in deep, because I want people to think about that, put themselves in those shoes, about how Vanessa is thinking and about how she's coping with him not being there physically, but him being there spiritually. And so that's the reason why I ask.
Yeah, I mean, Kobe was a superhero, right? So when he passed, it was, I feel like, a wake-up call or even a reminder to our own mortality, right? It can happen at any moment, and not to say that you need to be prepared for it per se, but it could happen. And if you don't have these type of important conversations with those around you, then they're almost at a disadvantage after it happens, because they're scrambling and trying to figure out what to do and how to do it. So yeah. I mean, I think that is cool for sure, and definitely tell them to work hard, because that's what allowed me to have success too.
That's it.
Man, thank you so very much. I see that obviously Game Beyond the Game is on the ticker. How can people learn more about you or follow you all on your YouTube channel? Where can they find you at, Lance?
Yeah, so on social media, everywhere, I'm at Lance Moore 16, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and then our family YouTube page is just The Moore Family. We post content once or twice a week. Some of it is a little bit serious. Some of it is more fun, fun stuff with the kids, and a little bit of comedy on there. But yeah, man, we stay pretty active on the social platforms. And my wife is at Casey Trione, Trione. That's her maiden name. She's more popping on IG than I am. I don't get paid for any post on IG anymore. She's doing really well for herself there. So shout out to her.
Bunch of overachievers in the Moore household. I'll allow it. I will allow it. Way to hold it down, man.
Man, that is awesome.
Yeah, thank you so very much, Lance Moore, for joining us today and being the rock star that you always are, and sharing your story and being as transparent and sharing with us the jewels that you bestowed upon us. For those of you watching, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube page at Game Beyond the Game. And you can join us here next week on Game Beyond the Game Facebook page, live every Tuesday, 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So remember, as we continue to learn what our Game Beyond the Game is and inspire you along the way for yours too. Thank you all. Peace.
Thank you. Peace. Peace, peace, peace. Oh, we got another comment. Oh, somebody said, also, well said. Thank you for sharing. Victoria Channel. You know, she just wanted to give a shout out. So we want to give a shout out to everybody. I did have one last thing to say. I think we all have a platform, especially right now, to be able to share the things that are in our heart, share the things that are in our spirit, because, you know, years from now, we're doing this interview, but years from now, our kids are going to look at it and they're going to be like, wow, man, I didn't know my dad had that much wisdom. I didn't know my mom had that much wisdom. Like, man, this is what they were trying to teach me when I was younger, because whenever they get older, it's at some point in time, their mind clicks on and they start grasping all of the concepts and the tools that we implemented for them to become successful in life. So I just want to tell you, man, thank you again for everything that you're doing, man. Thank you, Stan. Like, let's continue to keep building knowledge and not only financial wealth, but wealth for our health as well, and for the next generation. So I appreciate you, man. Y'all have a good one. Peace.